as you start the season next week, you have a whole new team, basically 7 newcomers, 7 returners, but 3 key players. How's this remade roster kind of going? Trying to really rebuild, but you have some key pieces. How's that all gone through this preseason so far?
I think that our theme for at least the first month or and a half is going to be we're a work in progress. We're going to have to figure out how we can score. We're going to have to figure out defensively how we can slow people down. I don't think we can stop anybody. We're little, so we're going to have to rebound. It's such a different team than you've seen the last 4 years. We were 6'3", 6'2", 6'1", and now we're 5'10", 5'10", 5'9". So, I like the core, Kiana Grant and Sagan Robbins and Paige Pipkin back from last year is solid. But how we're going to build and figure it out and tweak, I don't know. And the schedule, I looked at the schedule today and I knew it was bad. But it's going to make it harder in one respect for the girls, not for us. It'll really help us. But I don't know. I really don't know what our identity is going to be in January and February, and I'd like to at least have an idea. But I think probably after about 5 or 6 games, we'll probably have an idea of the direction we need to go.
This being your 13th season at UTM, is this probably your identity of this team? I know I've heard you say that before, but is this one more difficult to figure out than the others in your previous 12 seasons?
Maybe it's probably going to be simpler because there's not as many people going to play. I think our depth is going to be. I can't imagine us being able to go eight deep. So I think from that respect, it's going to be pretty simple. But the actual, are we going to be a zone team or a man team? Are we going to set ball screens? That is probably going to take a while. Because we don't have somebody that we think that we can go to. So we're going to have to figure out who can do what and when can we count on them and such and such. It's not like, hey, if in doubt, throw the ball to Chelsea and everybody get out of her way. Or throw the ball to Heather Butler, get out of the way. Throw the ball to Haley Howard, get out of the way. Throw to Jasmine, get out of the way. I think this is going to be a group. My prediction will be this group is the most dependent on each other group that we've ever had here, probably, since that first year, probably.
Big fourth in the Ohio Valley Conference preseason. Is that where you think your team is? Is that too high?
Based on what?
Just the fact that you don't know who the identity of this team is yet, based on who everybody else has coming back.
Based on who everybody else has coming back, we probably ought to be last.
Okay.
If you just base it on that, because I don't think anybody has got less coming back than us. I don't know. I haven't really looked. I know that the top 5 of the top 6 have got way more coming back than we do. So based on that, I wouldn't put us up there. Based on history, you probably would. Let's just hope history prevails over the actual roster. Because there's some teams in the league that are just loaded. I mean, they just are because they got everybody back in. I think 1 or 2 of them have multiple 6-year kids. So I think the league is thinking it's going to be a really, really good year.
Coach, you mentioned having a smaller squad. How do you approach that as a coach? How do you approach that, and how do you adjust things?
Well, we try to work on rebounding every day since it's going to be a weakness. And then we have to try to figure out different ways that we can overcome size, whether that be defensively, whether it be offensively, whether it be substitutions, whether it be whatever. And you're just going to probably have to go through a game and pick something and try and figure it out and move and switch. We may be a little smoke and mirrors on defense to try to maybe keep you confused, to maybe give us a little bit of an advantage. It's been a while. It's been a long time since we haven't had 6'2", 6'3", 6 whatever. So, but the good news for us is that Coach Trevathan and I both have been in high school, and we've had years where we didn't have anybody that had any size. So we've done it before. So can we figure out how to get these kids to understand it? And we're back to what we said a minute ago. I think they're going to be dependent on each other to rebound. We've had a scrimmage, and in one of the scrimmages, Kiana Grant was our leading rebounder. And I think that's going to happen multiple times this year, that everyone's going to have to do it. And our quote rebounder may spend the whole game just keeping their rebounder from the glass, and she may not get a rebound. That's kind of part of the figured out that we're going to have to come up with.
Is there a player or two that's made the biggest jump from last year to this year, and just their progression from year to year?
Not counting the ones that weren't here?
Just returners.
Just returners. Probably Haley Harrison. She's had some freak injuries that have caused her not to get to play the first 2 years. So she's still a freshman. But she's had a good pre-season so far, and she has the ability to cause some problems defensively and the ability to create her own shot on offense. And if she can get comfortable quickly, then she could really help us. So I would say, the other ones are just so solid. Kiana's solid, Sagan's solid, Paige is solid. They're going to do what they do.
Paige had Paige Pipkin in high school had a lot of games where she was the best player on the floor, and not just the best player, but the most dominant. She's too has suffered some injuries since getting here. Has she kind of settled into her role? Are you going to expect more out of her this year on the offensive end of the floor, much like her mother did in high school?
Probably. I think Paige feels, as of with Paige, it's daily, but as of the other day, it's the best that she's felt in a long time. She just had a staple removed from her knee 2 weeks ago today, and she scrimmaged Saturday, which tells you a lot about Paige Pipkin. The staple was working its way out of her knee, and so she was in a lot of pain and practicing. But we took it out. She felt a lot better. So she's now kind of in some uncharted territory in her career. She actually feels pretty good. But she is not as quick, fast jump. She's not as athletic as she was in high school. So she's kind of had to reinvent herself as a player. And there's not many kids that can do that, but Paige can do it. And one of the smartest basketball players I've ever coached. So I think as this season wears on, she's going to kind of get into her own rhythm. But then she's also looking around at our team going, what do they need me to do? And she'll try to do that. A great teammate. And you just want Paige to have a good, you just want her to have a good run because of all the injuries she's had to deal with.
She deserves it.
She does, yeah.
There's a newcomer or two to really focus on.
We're going to count on some. Holly Forbes is the graduate transfer. She's from Missouri that went to Robert Morris, and we're going to count on her to try to help hold down the forward inside. Ella Thompson is a freshman out of Kentucky, and same thing. We're going to have to get her to play a lot bigger than she is at 5'10", 5'11". Shanice, Simpson, Whiteley, and Gabby, Melby are two others that are going to just have to step up and give us some big minutes just because we're going to have some rest for some of these guys. And I think Holly, of course, with being a fifth year, knows what she's getting into. The other kids don't have a clue. And so we're going to be depending upon them when they don't know what we're depending on them for. So I think how quickly one of those guys can kind of figure the world out, so to speak, that it'll be easier. But they got scrimmaging against someone that's not us, open some eyes for them, and hopefully they'll take that and run with it. But just not a lot of depth.
You have a couple tournaments. Do you think that does that prepare you at all for March, or is that just to get games or a reward? I know part of that was last year's schedule, or.
Yes, all of that, all of the above. This was supposed to be a reward for Maddie and Chelsea because we weren't able to take a trip for a couple of years, and so we ended up packing them into last year. Well, then COVID pushed it back a year, so we're playing them now because we said we would. I think it'll help our kids, in March because you're playing neutral floor in a tournament, situation. But the biggest thing is the schedule. The schedule, when you look at it, it's daunting in itself, but for me, it's not, because we're going to learn about our kids. And I heard Paige actually talking to the team the other day, talking to a couple of the young ones, going, guys, y'all just got to come in here every day and work. Don't worry about who we're playing. Don't worry about how it's going. So we may win, we may lose. It doesn't matter because we're just trying to get ready for February and March. And I went, hey, that's good. I like that. And again, I've always, you can't figure your team out if you're not playing really, really good teams that can show your kids their weaknesses. And a lot of times I'm not real bright and need them to be glaring. And, well, it's going to be glaring. First team we plays 6'6" and 6'7". So very quickly, I think our kids are going to be going, oh, now I get why we were doing all those rebounding drills. We had some the other day talk about we were doing a lot of one-on-one defense with trying not to get people to help. And after we played, they went, the freshmen, oh, now that's why we do that drill. Yeah, sweetheart, that's why we did that drill. So I think a lot of it's going to be learning from that schedule. But the tournament, and the reward is a thing. It's just we got some kids that get rewarded and ain't done anything yet.
So from a conference perspective, you were the one that really forced the Ohio Valley Conference women's basketball coaches to do a better job of scheduling and get the RPI up. Are you seeing, or is the conference seeing dividends from that in the last couple of years?
With Belmont getting a 12 seed, I think that's absolutely. Because I think that we have had a team going into the tournament with an RPI that was basically the same for 2 or 3 years. The only problem was that the conference's RPI was so bad that we got a 14 one year when we deserved a 13 or a 12, and then Belmont got a 14 one year that I thought they were a 13 or a 12. So this was the first year that I thought that we reaped any type of benefit as a conference from that. Some of that might be scheduling. Some of it may be just that you've got teams that have gotten better. A lot of it is typically in the OVC, it was one team's really good for 2 or 3 years. There's another couple that are okay, and then everybody below that wasn't very good. Well, now I think what's happened is that we've got 2 or 3 that have stayed consistent. And now you have a couple that are now up there, and then you got a couple more. So now we've got 5 or 6 that are pretty good. And I think that's probably what's helped the league the most. What it'll be going forward, I don't know, because I don't know what our league is going to be.